Welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. Today we'll be talking about southern filaments, northern sunspots, geomagnetic storm forecast, and the potential for additional coronal mass ejections. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, we endeavor to provide you with accurate and relevant information, not imaginary nonsense. What we're looking at here is the solar intensitygram as taken from the Solar Dynamics Observatory, the SDO. And it looks like Sunspot 2802 has indeed evaporated, while at the same time Sunspot 2803 rose in the northeast. And if you were a patron, you would probably already know about this. Now we've got a close-up here of the new sunspot. We'll play this on HelioViewer real quick. It's Sunspot 2803. Which is looking pretty stable here. And I'm expecting a rather sudden uptick here. We haven't seen a lot of activity at all in the northern hemisphere of the sun. And now all of a sudden, sunspots spontaneously appearing. So anyway, there's Sunspot 2803. Here's a full disk view in 304 angstroms. By the way, the last view was another intensitygram from the SDO. It was just in black and white instead of in orange. And there is a large plasma filament down here, which does have the potential to create a coronal mass ejection. We'll keep you posted. It's part of the reason why the channel exists. Here's one more full disk view, and we'll save the close-ups for the end of the video. So stay tuned for that. We'll blast through a whole bunch of other data in the meantime, and we'll let that play through one more time. Next, we're going to look at, here's a diagram of the solar system, if you're wondering where stuff is located. And if you noticed, I'm wearing a red hat today, and it's because of the red planet. More on that later. And we're actually on in-the-sky today on the diagram. This one's actually to scale. And if you zoom out, you can see how far out the outer planets are in relation to the inner planets. This is part of the reason why we haven't been sending any probes to Europa or anything like that. The amount of time it takes to get to those outer planets is quite vast. It takes long enough to get to Mars. And if you're wondering, I still prefer Venus. Perhaps I've stirred up some more controversy there. Here's a star chart. And if you need to pause this or create your own star chart, feel free. Pause it. We'll be here when you get back. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux at 72. There is the 1 year chart of that. That graph is on solon.info. A measurement of the radio output of the lower corona. There is a geomagnetic storm forecast here for February 21st. February 21st, early in the morning here, between 3 and 6 Universal Time is when the forecast is by NOAA on that. And it all has to do with a coronal hole, a South Pole coronal hole, which has just moved out of the Earth-facing zone. Mount Etna's been erupting in spectacular fashion. What you're looking at there is a thermal image toward the new southeast crater, showing an explosion at the summit vent and the lava flow. So a possible new paroxysm coming up soon. So eyes on Etna. Lava flows have started emerging from the summit of the new southeast crater. A new crater, folks. And at this particular volcano, it's often a precursor to a lava fountaining episode. There you can see one of the lava fountaining episodes, a 300-meter lava fountain. Please do not attempt to pole vault the caldera of Etna. If you are on Sicily, it could make for a bad day, and most likely would. Also steam plume and so on, quite a lot of activity there at Etna, as well as seismicity happening, earthquakes under the volcano. Abiko on Paramushir Island, producing a 11,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima on the Japanese island of Kyushu, 6,000-foot ash plume there. Mount Raung on East Java, 14,000-foot ash plume. And some steam explosions happening on the White Island volcano north of New Zealand, north of the North Island there. So some similar explosions to those recorded on 29 December of last year. No detected change in gas emissions yet. Popocatépetl down in Mexico is exploding. Flight level 200, it's a 20,000-foot ash plume above the caldera there. Pacaya in Guatemala, as well as Fuego in the same country, producing 12,000 and 16,000-foot ash plumes, respectively. Sabancaya in Peru also exploding. Flight level 260, don't attempt the Triple Lindy over the caldera. No major earthquakes over the past 24. We'll scroll up the list. Here's a deep one in Ecuador, northwestern South America, just under 100 kilometers at a 5.2 magnitude. Here's a deep quake in southern Alaska, as well as one to its east. Those occurring about an hour apart. Largest of the past 24, I believe, was this 6.1 near Alo, Wallace, and Futuna. And we'll show you the location of that. It's near Samoa, northeast of Fiji. Almost halfway in between Fiji and Samoa there. That's 6.1 magnitude quake. I believe it's the largest of the past 24. Here's a deep quake at Papua New Guinea. It's a 5.1 magnitude. 5.8 in the mid-Pacific. The Central East Pacific Rise was the location of that one. And just bear with me while I scroll up the list. Small deep quake at Chile, a 3.7 magnitude at 139 kilometers depth. Super shallow quake at Trona, California. It's only a 3.0 magnitude, but it's at a depth of negative 0.6 kilometers, 600 meters above sea level. There's a location of that one. Near the Panamint Valley. I've never heard of it. California does have some weird geography, let me tell you. Just north of the Mojave Desert and east of the Naval Air Warfare China Lake Center. And let's continue on. By the way, today's Smash stream was brought to you live at twitch.tv/smAsho. It's a fantastic live streaming platform, which is why we use it. We also stream live to YouTube. We're also on BitChute. Before we continue on, thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding for the content, as we are paid just this side of nothing to make the content on YouTube. Please consider becoming a patron. We've got a lot of important things to be doing, and our patrons are ensuring that those get done. They're also ensuring that these videos remain free, publicly visible, etc., and and in existence. So our patrons are instrumental in the existence of these videos. And if you ever see them vanish, you may want to become a patron, because we won't stop making them. We just may have made them private. Make sure you press like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already done so. Take a moment, press like, press subscribe, press the notification bell. Perhaps share the content on your social media. And also, on BitChute, there is exclusive content coming there. There is exclusive content already there, and there will be more exclusive content coming soon. BitChute.com/smAsho. And if you're only watching on BitChute, please watch on YouTube as well, as there is exclusive content across all platforms. Check out our own website, smAshomash.com. We saw the writing on the wall years ago about things like censorship and the self-destruction of big tech. So we decided we need to make some of our own content. You'll find our merch shops there, as well as our smAsho store, Smash Merch, smAsho forum, etc. Visit our links, perhaps pick up some merch. Check out our smashomash.org presents the sun videos. The first 9 of those are located on the homepage, smashomash.com. Smashomash.org will redirect you there. And I was going to say something else, but I forgot what it was. So let's go on to a cosmology segment. Guess what that is, folks? That is a photograph of the surface of the red planet. Yes, Mars. It's the first image sent back from the Mars Perseverance rover just after landing. And by the way, we covered it yesterday. We did a over 2-hour live stream. Exciting moment there. Here's a clip. MRO, not tomorrow, as the closed captioning said. She did not say your death is good, by the way. Touchdown confirmed, folks. Woo! Good times. And thanks everybody who tuned into that. Also, you may want to check out eyes.nasa.gov. It's an interesting site. It'll allow you to view various things. No more time on that. Let's do more cosmology here. We're going to pick a random quantum number between 1 and 1031, which will coincide with an object at the Neil Gorell's Swift Bat X-ray Observatory. Today's object is number 1027, one of the last entries. It's a quasar. Quasar QSO B2345-167. Here are the X-ray transient output graphs of that quasar, a galaxy which we're looking right down the poloidal field of. And we'll talk more about poloidal fields in a future cosmology segment. It's a bit of an erratic X-ray emitter, quasar B2345-167, as you can see, although it does have a pretty solid baseline as well. There's a 30-day chart in the lower left. Let's take a quick look at it on Simbad and Aladdin Light. It's going to look like a sphere, as quasi-stellar objects are galaxies. But because of the perspective of viewing these galaxies, they appear like a sphere. If you were just a little bit off to the side viewing it, it might look like a spiral. Who knows? It could be an elliptical galaxy. It's very hard to tell when the poloidal field is pointed directly at you. Here it is in infrared. Pretty dim in infrared light there. Let's see if it shows up on the XMM Newton. No images there. How about the Chandra? And it's quite bright in X-ray. So there it is on the Chandra X-ray scope. And this is an interesting feature here, this line, this obvious pair of lines here. Perhaps it's a double nucleus galaxy. Maybe there are 2 sets of jets, but certainly we are looking down one of the jets. It's quasar B2345-167, and that's today's cosmology segment. Let's continue on. Once again, a small B-class solar flare happened while we were doing show prep. And if you've got messages to send directly to the sun, just leave them in the comments, and perhaps we'll read them at a later time. Leave a comment if you think the sun is conscious. Shout out to Kimberly from Unda. In any case, that's the 3-day chart of the X-ray flux. A couple little moments of B-class flares there. And we'll show you close-ups of the northern hemisphere at the end of the video. How the heck? I've got 2 X-ray flux graphs up for some reason. There's the proton flux, and we don't see any coronal mass ejections striking the magnetosphere. Therefore, no significant proton spikes are making it to the GOES 16, which measures at the ionosphere layer, the F ionosphere layer. And let's move on to the real-time solar wind, which has been upticking over the past 4 hours. Really over the last 6 hours. Coming off its lows of just under 4 protons per cubic centimeter, now up to around 11 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density. Current solar wind speed 377 kilometers per second. Looks a lot like a coronal hole wind stream arriving a little earlier than expected here, which is enough to bring the KP index up to 2. There's a 3-day chart of global geomagnetism as measured by the KP index. And we're going to show you the density here as well as the pressure in today's geospace magnetosphere movies. So you should see the pressure creeping up here. Keep in mind, folks, this shows low pressure in white, high pressure in dark blue, and it's only showing you 0 to 4 protons per cubic centimeter. So when the density gets higher than 4, all you're going to see is dark blue here. It's not that precise, but you can see that density creeping up. Here's the pressure. And the pressure should be increasing also as the solar wind speed has been fairly consistent, but the density has been increasing. And indeed, you do see an increasing pressure there on screen left, the direction of the sun. Next, looking at ground magnetic perturbations, and I would note once again the similarity to the way the south geomagnetic polar region looks compared to the north geomagnetic polar region. Regular viewers may know that the North Pole has 2 geomagnetic poles, one over Siberia and one over Canada. Are we getting a second South Pole? It would be logical for both of them to split if a true magnetic reversal is happening. Here's another view of the same data here. This is a synoptic map. It's, once again, ground magnetic perturbations, changes in the Earth's B field. And you can see about where the Canadian North Pole would be located. Is there another South Pole south of South America? There's certainly one south of Australia. I'm going to let this play through a second time here. Perfect time for a sip of my cocoa cayenne infused coffee. So once again, you can see major changes there in the Earth's B field south of South America. Down in this area. And you can see how far into the Indian Ocean the south geomagnetic pole has crept. Here are the low magnetometer readings that we forecasted yesterday. And we're going to see some wild spikes here as the coronal hole wind stream arrives, as well as direct changes in magnetism. And it's all based on what's going on in the corona. There's a huge filament there that's just moving into the exact Earth-facing zone. Here's a view of that. It's the top view ecliptic plane field plot, part of the National Sunspot Observatory, the Gong 2 data. And this area right here is what we're talking about. That is a giant plasma filament. Once again, folks, the likelihood of a coronal mass ejection is elevated right now. And let me bring up the last image here for one more comment. Possibly by tomorrow, we may see some much stronger readings on the GOES magnetometer, but expect some spiky readings because when there's plasma in between you and the magnet, the measurements can be affected as the plasma heats up and is aligned to the magnetic field force lines. Here's a line of sight plot. It shows you the solar magnetogram. And you can see the sun's B field slightly affected here. A little bit of a shape change as it gets pulled up toward sunspot 2803. No surprises there, at least to our regular viewers. There probably aren't any surprises there. And here's a coronal hole line of sight plot. You can see that large Earth-facing, South Pole-oriented coronal hole there, just moving past the Earth-facing zone. And here is the coronal magnetic field plot. And you can see those purple potential field surface source lines there, kind of pointed right at you there. That's the south-oriented coronal hole. Here's a diagram of the atmosphere. If you need to pause it, please feel free. Here's a diagram of the Van Allen belts and altitudes of spacecraft. Keep in mind this is in miles. And once again, if you need to pause it, feel free. The Van Allen belts are giant belts of electrons that come out of the geomagnetic poles and encircle the Earth. There are two major sets of them, the inner and the outer. Sometimes a third Van Allen belt actually gets formed during times of geomagnetic storms. I just figured I'd throw that in as we're moving into electron data. So we don't see any charging hazards as electrons are able to charge up satellites and so on. Here is the GOES electron flux over the past 3 days. It makes its measurements at the F ionosphere layer. Pretty low readings. To put it in context, there's the 1-year chart of the electron flux. Here's a visualization of the total electron content. This will show you where GPS errors are likely to be happening. And I've noted major GPS errors myself. Here in Pennsylvania, where my GPS thought I was in Missouri, I've done bike rides with an average speed of 10,000 miles per hour. I'll let it play through a second time. Nothing too anomalous going on there. And here's the forecast for the electron flux. This is for greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volts. And I would have to disagree with these forecasts here. Since it looks like there's a coronal hole wind stream arriving already, I'm expecting a little lower readings here than those green boxes. Just a little bit lower than the forecasts. The yellow diamonds are the observations. And just give the ionosphere map a minute to load. We're going to show you an animation of the frequency of the ionosphere here. So this is the atmospheric layer in the thermosphere where the GOES 16 makes its measurements. If you're wondering what this was doing on a previous day, view one of our previous daily space weather videos for that day. If it was in the past 2 or 3 years, chances are there's a video about it. As we push 600 videos on the daily space weather videos, youtube.com/smashomash/playlists. Here's the latest image coming in at 10 o'clock Universal Time. Nothing to write home about there. Here's a weather.gov map, and you can see major hard freeze warnings over much of southeastern Texas. All of southeastern Texas, indeed. Really the whole eastern portion of Texas. Some anomalously cold weather. Also winter weather advisories for me. And if you're wondering where we're located, we're in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, right about there. Yesterday we showed the irregular jet stream action over the southern hemisphere. So we're looking at the south geographic pole here. And the square has turned into still it's really a four-sided figure here. And our regular viewers are aware that all shapes are scary. So this one is not a 666 or anything. I'm not sure if there are any Church of Moloch cultists at Antarctica. Let's look at the jet streams of the eastern world. Check out the extreme meridional jet stream bend here over eastern Australia. A 180-degree bend there over only a few hundred miles. And some extremely concentrated jet stream here over the westernmost Pacific, reaching speeds of 234 miles per hour there, making for fast trans-Pacific flights from Asia back to the U.S., for example. Maybe we'll see some flight records set. Anticyclone over the central Pacific. Here are the jets of the western world. And it's become time for me to vanish. Broken up jet stream there over the North Atlantic. As it splits in two, let's take a quick look at the surface winds of the western world here. There are the surface winds. Powerful low pressure system there off of the west coast of Ireland. South of Iceland there. Powerful surface winds rotating counterclockwise. And indeed it's translating all the way into the jet stream layer. Continuing on with meteorology data, here's your worldwide lightning map. And it looks like we've got a string of lightning off the coast of New Jersey all the way down to Central America. No active lightning at all right now on the whole planet. How about that? No active lightning. A rarity. We cover it daily on the Daily Space Weather videos. And check out the cold temperatures over the U.S. Man, oh man, it was colder in Texas than it was in Alaska. 22 degrees right now. Barely above freezing in the southernmost portion of Texas. And up here it's 15 degrees Fahrenheit, folks. Incredible temperatures. Central Texas, 19 degrees Fahrenheit. And let's just move this forward. We're going to use the Gfs forecast. So it looks like those cold temperatures are going to slowly subside here. It looks like by Saturday you're going to be in the 50s in Texas, which will be welcome. Most of the power problems have been solved now, by the way. Anyway, there's your temperature and pressure forecast for the GFS. There's where we expect things to be tomorrow, Saturday, February 20th. At 12 noon. And it'll still be on the cold side here in Pennsylvania. Only 26 degrees forecasted for my area tomorrow at noontime. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. And you can see that line of lightning was associated with that long line of clouds. No real surprise there. Here's the water vapor map. You can see those clouds are being sandwiched by dry, massive air. The jet stream's taken its good old time to move these systems to the east. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map. And this one's actually wrong. It's actually not really snowing. It should show wintry mix for us. And I have a feeling that alleged ice storm there over Virginia is actually rain, based on what's going on here. In fact, I would bet the farm on it. So here's your power outage map, poweroutage.us. And it looks like Texas is down to about 200,000 customers out of power now, a great improvement. Louisiana also seeing problems, as well as Mississippi. Some out of power in Kentucky, West Virginia, and Virginia as well. Oregon still with 73,000 out of power on the left coast. And thanks, Smash Team, for tuning in. We've got bonus features. Before we do it, make sure you press like and subscribe. as the place will continue to burn if you don't do so, and the video can't continue. We can't show you the bonus features until you press like and subscribe. Today's bonus features will be the solar magnetogram in colorized magnetogram, as well as the intensitygram. We're going to show you a high-res image of Sunspot 2803 right after you press like and subscribe. And don't forget to press share if you've already pressed like and subscribe. We need a fire extinguisher instead of my breath putting out these fires at the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. Here's your solar intensitygram. So only one sunspot here, 2803. And it looks like the leading umbra has split. So this sunspot has actually degraded. And I think actually the radial flux has dropped back down to 71 here. So an indication that that sunspot might be degrading quickly. You can see it's clearly split into two. It was a significantly well-organized area before. Here it is in colorized magnetogram. And indeed it is a North Pole-oriented sunspot. There is some South Pole magnetism leading it, but the umbra is North Pole, as you can see there, in green and blue. And again, it looks like it's degrading. So let's show the rest of our HelioViewer movies here to close things out. Before that, it's time for me to get off screen, as the aesthetics of me pale in comparison to the aesthetics of the closest star. So here it is in 193 angstroms. Again, it looks like we're already getting some protons from that coronal hole, which is front and center, just moving out of the Earth-facing zone. Large filament there could erupt. It's pretty low in the corona right now. I won't put out any official coronal mass ejection watches. However, again, the magnetic environment can suddenly change, and this is a large plasma filament. We'll be keeping you updated. It's part of the reason why we have a channel. Here it is in 304 angstroms. It'll give you a little better view of that large filament down there. And that coronal hole is so defined that it's even showing up here in 304 angstroms ionized helium. And next we'll go to the north. Here's the whole northern hemisphere in 131 angstroms. A little bit of activity up there. A little bit of a filamentary collapse right here. A little bit of motion showing up there in this ionized iron emission spectra. Here's 94 angstroms, which, like 131, takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2. And it looks like those B-class solar flares indeed did come out of Sunspot 2803 there over on your screen left. And here's 171 angstroms, my favorite wavelength. Thanks again for tuning in, viewers, friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. smAsho. Once again, welcoming you to the Neo-Renaissance. And repeating the motto, the tagline, may that solar wind be at your back, and may that covidiocy be absent from your neighborhood.